Well, okay. Slope equals -6. Slope is y minus 4 over x minus 1/2. So we get y minus 4 over x minus 1/2 equals -6. Now we want to solve for y, right? What's the first step in solving for y? Sorry?
Do we need to get y by itself?
Well, we want to get y by itself, but we're not going to be able to do that in one step. There's something we better. And there's one way that we always start when we have an equation with a denominator. If we have a denominator in an equation, we always multiply both sides by the denominator. We don't move this over here. That's not a mathematical operation. That's a visual operation. It's okay if you think that you want to move this over to this side. That's fine, as long as you do it using a mathematical operation. If you just move it, you're liable to do just about anything. And you know, I saw a lot of just about anything in some of the papers that y'all did last time, but that's what you expect, okay, beginning of this course, because you've been taught to do things by how they look rather than by the rules, most likely. Depends, okay? So we don't do math by the way it looks, although we use the way it looks to motivate us, okay? We do math by the rules. And the rule is, okay, we don't want that there. We want to get y by itself. Okay, we don't want the 4 there. We don't want this there. Well, we can't do much with the 4 as long as this is here, so we move this over here. But how do we do it? We do it by multiplying both sides by x minus 1/2, and I will require you to show that step to reinforce the fact that you can multiply both sides of an equation by a non-zero number, okay? So, we do x minus 1/2 multiplied by y minus 4 over x minus 1/2 equals x minus 1/2 times -6, right? And that's the same thing. Now you're going to want to cross this out with this, okay? There's one problem on the assessment test that everybody missed because they crossed things out incorrectly, inappropriately, absurdly. In 60 papers I've seen from dual enrollment students in the high school to here, only 2 people have failed to cross things out incorrectly. I forbid cancellation. There's no such thing. No such thing as cancellation. I don't want to see you crossing anything out, ever, in this course. Unless you somehow prove to me that you really know what it means. But you don't know. Nobody knows. Because everybody did it wrong. You did not follow rules of mathematics. You just crossed stuff out indiscriminately. Now, I set the problems up so it would look like you ought to do that. Just to make a point. Okay? But there are principles of algebra that you did not apply, and nobody did. And I'm not saying you're terrible people. I mean, some of you probably are. No, I don't think so, really. Okay? It's that your courses have failed to give you the principles of algebra sufficient to justify the use of cancellation. Okay? Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Now, actually, when I say nobody got it, there might have been one person that got it. I don't remember if it was in the dual enrollment or here. There were 2 or 3 that actually scored on that problem. Now, you know, it's not counting toward your grade, so don't worry about it. I'm using it to assess, and that's the sole purpose of it. Okay, anyhow. You might want to cross this out with this, but it's forbidden. You're not allowed to cross things out. So what you do is you write this as x minus 1/2 over x minus 1/2, and hopefully you understand fractions well enough to know why you can do that. And we'll address fractions separately, but you can rewrite this now in this form, right? Now I hope you understand that. If you don't, well, we're going to address fractions next time. We've got x minus 1/2 over x minus 1/2 Well, what is that? It's 1. It's not cross it out and obliterate it, although that would happen to work in this case. Okay? It's 1. So now we have 1 times y minus 4 equals, now what can we do over on this side? What do you want to do? What's it look like we ought to do here?
Multiply.
I'm sorry?
Multiply.
Multiply them.
Together.
A little more specific.
Multiply them together.
Multiply them together. Multiply what together with what?
-6 with x minus 1 half.
Oh, how do you do that?
Distribute them.
Yeah, you use distributive law. I knew you were going to say it. Okay, very good. Okay, that's why I kept after you. If I'd have thought you weren't going to get it, I'd have gone on. Okay, but I knew you were going to get it. Okay, so we're going to use the distributive law, right? Okay, so we're going to use x times -6 minus 1/2 times -6. We're going to write that step out, aren't we? Now later on, when you get good enough at this stuff and actually show me that you're following the rules, I won't make you write out every step like this. And there'll be problems where I don't, but there'll be problems where I do, okay? Okay, well 1's the identity for multiplication, right? So now we know that this side says y minus 4, and of course this over here can be written as -6x plus 3, right? Okay? Now everything I've done is by rules, not by visual, not by superstition, not by what we want it to look like, but by what it is, right? And it's not that hard with this equation. It's something you got to get used to, because to pass an SOL, all you got to do is know what it looks like and circle the right number, which is, you know, SOL is the whole goal of teaching algebra, okay? It's a bad goal, but maybe better than what we had before. Okay, so y minus 4 equals -6x plus 3. Now what do we do? Add 4 to both sides. Now, I do that like this. I don't write down 4 equals 4 and then add the two equations, although I more or less accept that because it is valid. Okay? But there are advantages to writing it out linearly. One step follows the other. Okay? I'll accept either. Because that's kind of what you've been taught to do. And anyhow, that gives us -6x plus 7. Right? Okay, now what is this?
Slope-intercept form.
So what?
Slope-intercept form.
Slope-intercept form of what? That's good. That's a good answer. If you can't go on with that, let somebody else. Huh?
The slope of -6.
You know, just as you said that, this hearing aid battery went low, and I heard Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and I didn't hear what you said. Can you say it again?
I said we were trying to figure out the slope of -6.
So,
y minus 4.
well, actually, what I'm looking for is, this is the equation of a straight line, isn't it?
Oh.
Okay? What straight line?
A negative.
Pardon?
Negative, going down. Like negative slope.
It's got a negative slope of -6, right? That's a good property. And it's got a y-intercept of 7, right? Everybody knows that, don't you? If you don't, kind of review it, okay? Oh yeah, I got to, you know, while I'm talking, everybody take one of these. Take one pass it. Plenty of them. And you can review it, a lot of it, and what I'm handing out here, which is the first chapter of your text. Okay, so we have this, right? It's a straight line. What straight line is it?
It's on 7.
I'm sorry?
It's on 7. So
Yeah, but, well, you know what this is? It's a straight line. It passes through the point 1/2 4. Okay? and it has a slope of -6. In other words, it's this line right here. Okay? So by using this fundamental triangle, and then using this fundamental triangle, which shares this point, that puts an arbitrary xy here, we derive the equation of a straight line. That's a lot easier to use, you know. Y minus y1 equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 times x minus x1. Okay? Or whatever slope-intercept form. But that's a formula, and it has no real content. If you do this with those symbols, you get that equation. And there's a big difference between applying a formula that you don't really understand the meaning of and a process here that has a deep meaning. Now, you're not going to totally understand the meaning of this. Some of you might. But that's the difference between an algebra course and a pre-calculus course. We've got to understand things a little more deeply. Okay? I don't expect you to totally understand that, but I'll ask you some questions and ask you to set up some triangles. And I'll give you some guidance, you know, I'll give you some hints and some steps. I don't expect you to be able to have, I don't say, okay, apply this method to find a straight line through this point, okay, with this slope. Now, in a week maybe, but step by step, okay? Fair enough? Okay, very good.